Kia ora koutou, Markie here. So I've returned to the same location as where I was last week and made a few videos, and it's a sheltered spot so the waves gently lap, whereas on the coast here the waves generally come crashing in, so it's nice. A restful place to shoot a video. So first caveat, or first preface to the video is this is a channel primarily for the purposes of helping people with retroactive jealousy, which is a lesser known condition which is horrible, and most of the videos I produce are probably not on retroactive jealousy, they're on other things, and that's just the way it is. There's reasons for that, but I won't go into them every time. And second thing, this is a neurodiverse channel in that I'm neurodivergent, and the presentation style is going to be slightly different to what you get on probably most YouTube videos, and some will like it and some will hate it. So okay, that's the prefaces out of the way. So I do a lot of videos that are one-offs, and I do a lot of videos that are little series. So I've got a series running about correct use of language. It's called Elegant and Accurate Speech, and I've got a series about psychotherapy and what psychotherapy is all about, and this is a crossover where both those series meet. So if you're following either of those series, and I will put links to those playlists for the other two in the description box down below, but you don't need to have watched anything at all in order to enjoy this video. So what I want to talk about is the term psychoanalysis and how people misuse it. In fact, people misuse it all the time, which annoys me. Despite being autistic, things like that really do my head in. So I'm going to explain what psychoanalysis is and what it isn't, and maybe why people misuse it, and talk about who misuses it. So psychoanalysis, it's one of those sort of intuitive words, isn't it? That the psycho, the psyche, analysis, to analyze. So you would be forgiven. You could be forgiven. Not by me, you wouldn't be forgiven, but by other people. There's a little oyster catcher there. I'm just going to try and show you. See, this is where it's a neurodivergent channel, because we go off on. I'm ADHD as well, so we go off on massive tangents, and that's part of the charm of the channel. That's the biggest zoom I can get to him. But he's quite cute. They seem to be all over the world, don't they, oyster catchers? And there do seem to be lots of oyster shells here, so I've seen him here a few times before, so it's a good spot if you're an oyster catcher by the sounds of things. So yeah, it's an intuitive word. You would think, to kind of assess or make sense of somebody's psyche, to try and work out what makes somebody tick, to take a look under somebody's mental bonnet. That's the hood if you're American. You think that's what it means, but it doesn't. It's one of these words that's taken on a very specific meaning. Another term that's a little bit like this is transcendental meditation. So somebody talks about transcendental meditation. So transcend, to arise, I can't really give other synonyms for transcend. So it's like ascend, which means to go up. To transcend means to go across, actually, literally. So transcendent meditation is like going from one place to another, but it kind of means in a spiritual sense. So it's kind of moving to another dimension, moving to a higher dimension, a higher realm. Transcendental meditation is like I say, could be a term that you could describe to a whole range of different types of meditation, because a lot of them will have that aim, or will possibly give that benefit. But transcendental meditation is actually a trademark, and it's a particular movement. So transcendental meditation and psychoanalysis are both words that have a specific meaning and belong to a particular school of thought, if you like, or a particular body. So psychoanalysis is a term which I believe was invented by Sigmund Freud. People call him Sigmund, but it's Sigmund because, of course, he was Austrian. And it specifically relates to a very unique and discrete form of psychotherapy. It is the first form of psychotherapy, certainly psychotherapy with a capital P. I mean, there are other kind of ways that people helped each other by talking things through before that. Mostly they were kind of within religious contexts, people talking to priests and getting help from pastors and things like that. But Freud, he wasn't a psychiatrist, as many people think. That's another misnomer. He was a neurologist, and he worked in some hospitals, and he kind of figured that, rather than medicating people, or as well as medicating people perhaps, who were patients in these establishments, maybe you could talk to them, and there could be a talking therapy would be effective. And everyone thought he was mad for doing this. I thought, well, good grief, that's out of the box, that's insane. But that's where psychotherapy and then later counselling, all these things came from there, really. So he was very interested in the psychic. And I say psychic, people use psychic in different ways, so I'm not using psychic in the Mystic Meg term of the word, but psyche has to do with, originally means soul, psyche means soul, but then it came to mean mind, basically. So when old school people, psychologists and clinicians, use the word psychic, that's usually the term that they mean it in. He was interested in kind of psychic geography, if you like, so what makes up our mind. And he was interested very much in the unconscious. There's a lot of people, kind of popularly people call it the subconscious, but the old school psychoanalysts and psychotherapists call it the unconscious. Same thing. So he was interested in how the mind was made up of different parts. That's what I mean by geography. So you've got the conscious and the unconscious. You've also got the pre-conscious, and then he went into more depth and more detail about more parts of the unconscious. And then Jung, who he collaborated with, went off in a slightly different direction and came up with even more parts. And other people have run with the ideas since and developed them further, and they've got growing and growing and growing. So there's psychoanalysis as an academic school is alive and well. Psychoanalysis as a method of therapy, not as big as it was, and there are some reasons for that, some of them political, which I'll touch on. So that is psychoanalysis. And psychoanalysis, so the psychoanalytical theory, which is the geography of the psyche, and there's psychoanalytical practice. And psychoanalytical practice is very clearly defined. So it's very different to other forms of psychotherapy or counselling. So this is where, the couch comes in. Okay, so not all psychoanalysts use the couch, or they don't necessarily use it all the time, but Freud was the first one to use the couch. Apparently, it's alleged that he started using the couch because he didn't like people looking at him all day, and it was nothing more than that. But I think people found that by getting people to look away from the therapist, they were more able to introspect and talk freely, rather than seek approval from the therapist and get distracted by all the social interactions that we normally do as human beings. So, and that makes a lot of sense, really. So psychoanalysis, where you see psychotherapy on the telly, or in dramas and things like that, often it is psychoanalysis, and you will see people lying on the couch. And if they're reproducing it properly, the therapist should be sitting behind them. There's no point having somebody on a couch and then sitting in front of them, because you're still, they're relaxed and they're lying down, but the idea is they're not looking at the therapist. And a psychoanalytical therapist might not, necessarily make eye contact or look at you, even if you're sitting down together. And sometimes they might. There's lots of variations with this. The other thing with psychoanalysis is it's full on. It often takes years, and it kind of has a beginning and an end. The analyst will say when the analysis is complete. And often it will involve attending therapy several times a week, traditionally 4 times a week. There are other schools that do it 2 times a week. And it's very strict about that, and it's very, very contained. In a way, I like to think of it as therapy in laboratory conditions, and it came out of medicine. All the people that were founders of this and movers in this originally were doctors, so it has this very kind of precise clinical scientific background to it, if you like. And the reason it's so intense is what the analyst is doing is basically intensely reading the unconscious of the client. They're not really that interested in the conscious mind of the client, because the client knows their conscious mind, but they're interested in delving into and seeking clues in terms of what people say. So that's why you have things like Freudian slips. A Freudian slip is where you mean to say one thing and you say another. And Freud would say that that's not an accident, that that's where the information material from the unconscious is slipping into the conscious. Likewise, dreams are very, very important in psychoanalysis. So the analyst will encourage the analysand, as they're sometimes called traditionally, to or the client, or they usually say patient rather than client, will encourage them to bring dreams, and they will analyse dreams. So psychoanalysis is a very specific model of psychotherapy, where the therapist is not interested in kind of being nice and forming a strong a strong working relationship with the client necessarily. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but they're interested in they are like detectives, really, I guess, looking for information from the unconscious, which they will then help the client to integrate into their conscious, but not just by telling them everything that they pick up on. They might actually hold on to some of the information that they identify until they think it's an appropriate and safe time for the client to integrate it. So there's loads more to that. Now, if you're a psychoanalyst and you're listening to this, sorry, there's a plane going overhead which is making a bit of a noise. You could probably pick up on some faults in my description, but this is the danger when you simplify things, and inevitably you miss some of the detail and some of the nuance. So if anybody is a psychoanalyst or has expertise, and I'm not a psychoanalyst, and they're able to fill in some of the blanks or correct me on anything in the description box, in the comments, then go for it. That'd be great. Just be polite, because the purpose of YouTube is that we have a good time, that we enjoy and learn and all that stuff. So no place at all for aggression or rudeness. So that's what psychoanalysis is. So psychoanalysis is just getting your head around somebody psychologically. I remember once I was with somebody, and it was a bit of a tense situation. This person wasn't particularly bright, unfortunately, and there was a bit of a tense situation going on, and I couldn't quite work out what was happening for them. They seemed a bit pissed off, but I wasn't quite sure whether they were angry, whether they were sad, whether they were confused. I said, what's going on, what are you feeling right now? And they said, don't psychoanalyze me. I thought, fucking hell, if you think, asking somebody what they feel is psychoanalysis, why does psychoanalysts train for 7 years? So, essentially, and don't mix up the two, okay? So if you're talking about just trying to get ahead, get your head around somebody's psyche, their psychology, their personality, use another. Well, you can do what you want. I'm not going to tell you what to use, but it'll annoy me if you use psychoanalysis. There's a guy on YouTube I've been following recently. Has the brilliant YouTube channel title of Psych for Sore Eyes, which is good, isn't it? And he's a forensic psychologist. He works in prisons and with courts and things like that. And I do some of my work is along similar lines. So I've been following his channel, and he's a good-looking devil as well. So not that I'm at all jealous, but he uses the term psychoanalyze to on some of his videos when he's just actually basically just breaking down somebody's psychological profile, and he actually uses the word psychoanalyze in one word, spelt in the same way, and that's very, very naughty. I can't remember what his name is, but Mr. Psych for Sore Eyes, I like your channel, and do check it out, people. I'll even put a link to it on the in the description box below. But naughty, please stop doing that if you watch this video, which you probably won't. So there you go. So that is a crossover of one of my series being picky about the use of language, and one of my series which talks about psychotherapy. So check out both, depending on what you're interested in. The one on psychotherapy is a lot about kind of busting some of the myths about psychotherapy, because it's misrepresented a lot in you know, in fiction and on the media and that kind of thing. So some interesting stuff on there. And the other series about the elegant and accurate speech is a lot about common errors that people make. So if you want to avoid malapropisms and you know, common errors and things that just don't make sense and poor grammar and that kind of thing, that's the channel for you. And it's kind of quite fun as well, because it's me having a bit of a rant as well. And other people who are autistic like me will probably appreciate that. So, and there will be more on both of these series, but I make them when I've got the mojo. So there might not be another one in either series for 10 years. Might be another one. I might do another one in 10 minutes. And there will be more stuff on retroactive jealousy. There'll always be more stuff on retroactive jealousy, but I don't just bang them out for the sake of it, saying the same old thing. I only make them when I've got something new to say. So, but please remember that by watching this and supporting this channel, you are helping us spread information, not just through YouTube, but through other means, to people who are suffering with retroactive jealousy, who maybe don't even know it's a thing, and we're helping to get the message out to them. So just by watching this video, especially if you watch it to the end, really helps. If you subscribe, if you hit the like button, if you share it, if you give us a nice comment, all those things help, because what they do is they make YouTube share this video and all my other videos more widely, so more people see them, because generally speaking, they're buried. You have to dig really, really deep to find my videos. So if you found this video, well done. You know, you're digging into the depths of YouTube. So there we go. So I hope that was interesting. Bit of a rant, a bit pedantic, but there we go. I don't care. I will see you soon in the next video, and thank you for watching. Rangimarie.